Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video, or simply good hello. I'm determined to make good hello a thing. So, this is going to be a video, hopefully a short one, on our reinforcer survey project. So, I've got shown here for you on the screen right now our iLearn page, and I have mine set in student preview. So, hopefully, it looks like what you can see. Let me back up to the content page. If you navigate through the content page and scroll down, you should see on your page reinforcer survey information. Look inside in nice hot pink. I've kind of color coded the different assignments together. What you don't see here yet is the Dropbox, which I don't have open yet, but it will be. So you've got the folder that says information. Look inside, and then you've got the CEC standards. I'll explain in a moment what that's for. So let's click on the look inside folder. When you click on that, you'll see a link to the video, which obviously you found because you're watching the video. But so you have the link to the video. Then you will also have a link to right here will be the PowerPoint, the review of expectations for the reinforcer survey. So that'll be the PowerPoint that I'm about to show you when as part of this video. You'll also have the link to the rubric and then the forced choice survey. It says use this one, and then also some information that's helpful for completing your survey. So let's go ahead and open up our PowerPoint, or I guess my PowerPoint, not our PowerPoint. Let me see if I can get this to show my video as I am presenting it for you. Hold on just one second. Give me just a second to get this to cooperate with me. And I'm not getting it to cooperate. Just one second. Technology is not my friend today, but there's always more than one way to do anything. My mother used to always say there's always more than one way to skin a cat. I never did understand really why anybody would want to skin a cat. But anyway, that's just a saying that my mother used to always say. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. So here we go. So our reinforcer survey project is one of our major assignments. And on our first night of class, we went through a PowerPoint that gave you information on all of our major assignments. So when you look back at that, and that's available for you in our week one folder if you need to go back and review it. But it talked about each of our major assignments. And so the information it provided you for the reinforcer survey was letting you know that you would be using a forced choice survey, and I'll explain in a moment what that is, located under our content tab. I just showed you that. That you're going to administer it to a group of no less than 10 students. We're going to go through all of that. So this information is there for you. It is due week 4. We'll talk about that as well. And as with all of our assignments, the Dropbox will disappear shortly after the due date. So please make sure that you're keeping up with the due dates. So all of that information is there for you. And of course, it had there for you illustration of how to find this video, which obviously you did. So let's jump in. Our reinforcer survey project. So our course calendar that I provide for you, I know that iLearn has a calendar function built in, but apparently it and I are not friends. So instead of using that calendar function, I provide one for you. So the calendar that I provide for you is listed on our iLearn page under the content as course calendar. And so on that, it's organized by the weeks. So like for week 1, for example, it lists what we are going to discuss, and then it lists for you the assignments and the due dates and when things are due. So if you look at week 3, you'll see that for week 3, it shows that the reinforcer survey project, and I've got the purple arrow there pointing at it, that it's due the following week. So it's due week 4. So the reinforcer survey project, and it even tells you that it needs to be a PowerPoint and Excel file, tells you to refer to the video, which you're doing, the PowerPoint, which is in the folder, and the rubric, which is in 2 folders, the reinforcer survey folder, as well as the rubric folder. You can find it both places. So let's get started. As I showed you a second ago on our content page, this is where you will go to find the information for the reinforcer survey project. And like I said, everything's color-coded because I'm just slightly OCD. So everything's color-coded for you there that's related to the same assignment. Once you open up the folder that says look inside, you'll see the link to this video. Then you'll see the link for the review of expectations. That's to the PowerPoint. And then you'll see the rubric, the forced choice survey, and then some other information that might be helpful for you. So the first steps, you are going to administer a survey to a minimum of 10 children. You can administer it to more, but it needs to be at least 10. Let me also remind you that this assignment is associated with 3 of your field experience hours. So those 3 hours are obtained by you having a conversation with the teacher prior to administering the survey to find out which students you can survey, whether she or he wants you to administer the survey individually, one-on-one, pulling students out into a small group. If you're going to do like stations in your room and one of the stations in the classroom is them coming to you for the survey, however the two of you decide to work that out is fine. But so conversations beforehand, and then an hour for administering the survey, and then an hour for discussing the survey results with the teacher after you've tabulated your information and gathered that and have gone through and analyzed the data that you've collected. So that's the 3 hours for your field experience associated with this assignment. 1 hour for conversations beforehand, 1 hour for administering the survey, and then 1 hour for discussing the survey results with the teacher. So you're going to administer the forced choice survey to a minimum of 10 students. It needs to be of similar age, so not like 1 senior, 1 kindergartner, and 1 fifth grader, and 3 third graders, and so forth and so on. They need to be of similar age, so that way you can make good comparisons. Be sure that each survey participant selects only 1 choice per pair of choices, and I'll show you what I mean here on the next slide, and that they respond to every pair of choices. And then you're going to tabulate your results for each participant. This is what the forced choice survey looks like. And like I said, it's provided for you in our folder. You do not have to create a survey. You don't have to go out and find a survey. It's already there for you. Depending on the age of the children that you are surveying, you might be able to just simply give it to them and provide instructions, or you may have to sit with them one-on-one and read through every item with them, or one in a small group and read with it through them and help them with completing the project or completing the survey. The survey is called a forced choice survey as opposed to an open-ended survey. If I was providing an open-ended survey, it might have a question such as, what would you like as a reward for doing good work? And it's completely open-ended. The forced choice survey is looking to then instead determine a plethora of possibilities. We're looking at finding categories that the student might find as reinforcing. So on the screen, you see that there's adult approval, competitive approval, peer approval, independent rewards, and consumable rewards. So I'm not looking for whether or not Charlie Brown prefers or if Mickey Mouse prefers Snickers or Skittles. I'm looking for, does Charlie Brown prefer my approval or the approval of his peers, the rest of the Mickey Mouse Club gang? Or does he prefer to be able to spend 5 minutes doing something independently on his own? Is Mickey Mouse motivated by competition, by being the first to get something done or being the best at something? So we're looking for the category of reinforcer that serves best for the students. As you read through the forced choice survey, there's 40 pairs of choices, and you'll notice that some of the items are repeated. And again, that's intentional. So you're looking at whether or not they want this as opposed to this. So in other words, whether or not I want 100 written on my paper as opposed to being first to finish my work, but maybe I would prefer a consumable reward as opposed to getting 100 on my paper. So you're going to see some of the things written twice because it's not a matter of that, do I want this one thing? It's with given these 2 options, which do I prefer? So like I said, there's a total of 40 pairs of choices that you're going to be going through. And then once you've gone through all 40, well, the students have gone through all 40 and have answered them and selected which one they prefer. So they're putting an X or check mark, whichever one you prefer, highlighting however you want it to be responded to, one selection in each of the 40 choices. Make sure that the child answers each of the 40 and make sure that they only give you one answer for each of the 40 pairs. Otherwise, your data will be off. So make sure that you've looked at how many possible choices you should have for adult approval, competitive approval, peer approval, independent rewards, and consumable rewards. Make sure that you don't have more than the number of times it's listed in the survey. All right. So enter results into an Excel spreadsheet. And if you've never used Excel, There is the back of our textbook. The appendix is the whole appendix is on using Excel to create graphs. So that's a great resource for you. I also have resources for you on our iLearn page to help you with using Excel to create graphs if you're not familiar with it. I know that in today's day and age, a lot of people use Google. So if you want to type all of your information into Google Forms and all of those 40 questions, all those 40 pairs, and then have the students, once you've given it to them and explained it to them, have them complete it through Google Forms and have it complete the graph for you. That could be a great option. Understand, though, that part of your assignment is to create 2 graphs. One that is, for a technical term, gobbledygook, and the other that is a perfect picture. What I mean by that, as part of this assignment, one of the key learning objectives that I want you to learn is that it's important to not only be able to collect accurate data and to be able to enter it into Excel or another software program, but to be able then to choose an appropriate graph to communicate that data. So I'm sure that you've seen graphs before that when you look at it, it's like, what are they trying to tell me? Or that doesn't make any sense. So I want you to see that using the same set of data, you can pick a graph that, although it's the correct information, it doesn't communicate anything. It doesn't make sense. It's hard to understand. It's useless for our purposes. And then learn the flip side of, however, if I choose a graph that's appropriate for my data and for what I need to communicate, that graph alone paints the picture and is effective in displaying and communicating my information. So while Google Forms and the graph that it generates can be useful, it may not help you in completing the second part of the graphs. However, you can use it if you want to, download that information from Google into an Excel sheet, and then go from there to complete your second graph. The choice is yours. I don't want to limit you in the resources that you use. So this is an example, and for our illustration purposes, I only used 5 individuals. Please remember that you're going to administer it to at least 10. I chose to use Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, Donald, Goofy, the Mickey Mouse gang. So like I said, I did 5 just so that way if it's on the screen big enough or small enough so that you can still see it, and just for illustration purposes. But remember, you are administering it to a minimum of 10 students. So you'll see here that after tabulating, after Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, Donald, and Goofy completed all of their surveys, I tabulated all the results, and this is what I would have entered into my Excel sheet. And you'll see that all of my totals for each individual is 40. Why? Because there was 40 choices or 40 pairs, sets of pairs. And because I did 40 times 5, I should have a total of 200 responses. That's my double check to make sure that I'm correct. Obviously, your total number of responses should be 400 because you're doing at least 10 students. I've had students in the past that decided to give it to an entire class. I've even had students in the past that have given it to an entire grade level. So they worked with their grade level and said, we'd love to find out a group reinforcer that we're going to use for all of our, say, for example, the 4th grade in our school. So you can administer it to as many students as you so choose, but it needs to be administered to a minimum of 10 students. So this is one graph, and although it's pretty, I love the purple happens to be my thing. So I love the different shades of purple, and it's very, very pretty. It's a 3D graph. However, when I look at it, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that I'm looking at other than the pretty colors. So I can see that, yes, it does have the students' names down at the bottom, Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, Donald, and Goofy, and even a totals column. And I can see that going up the other side there, that it lists the adult approval, competitive approval, peer approval, independent rewards, and consumable rewards. But it's truly not very easy for me to be able to ascertain what Mickey preferred, and how, I don't know that I'd be able to use it. So that's my first graph. Second graph, I used a bar graph. Again, with pretty purple colors. Yours does not have to be purple, of course. All right, so pretty purple colors. So you'll notice that now with the bar graph, I have there at the bottom, again, all of the names of my 5 participants. Yours will be 10. My 5 participants. And then you'll see the bar, the bar graphs, the bars that go up and show me that for Mickey, it is clear that Mickey preferred competitive approval. So see, when I look at Mickey's section here, I can see that the highest one there is competitive approval at 16. He absolutely was not at all motivated by peer approval. So, for whatever reason, Mickey doesn't care what his friends think. So, for Mickey, the best reinforcer for him is going to be competitive. He wants to be the best at what he's doing, regardless of what his friends think. He just wants to be the best. He was the same or had the same responses for independent rewards and also for consumable rewards. So those two would both serve as a second option for Mickey. Also, here, if you look at the totals, I would see that as a group, my group preferred consumable rewards. Secondly, the group preferred peer approval, except for Mickey. So that helps me then to be able to see clearly what each individual child prefers, their highest preference, their secondary preference, as well as an overall preference for the group, as well as secondary or third preferences for the group as well. That would be useful in being able to figure out, okay, if I'm trying to find a motivator for the entire group, maybe they don't all want the same thing that as far as their first choice, but maybe if their second choice lines up, then, like I said, for this group, I would look at consumable rewards followed by peer approval if I was looking at a group reinforcement. So you're going to create your PowerPoint. All right. So you started out with you administered the fourth choice survey to at least 10 students. Once you've administered and you tabulated the results, so know what your total numbers for each individual for each of the 5 categories, then you enter that information to Excel. You use that information to communicate to create 2 different graphs, one that's gobbledygook and one that tells the picture or tells the story. Then you're going to create your PowerPoint. You're going to refer to the rubric for the assignment and make sure that your assignment, that your work includes all of the requirements. And also, please be sure to proofread your work. The rubric, which I showed you, is available in that same folder. It tells us that you're going to start out, and it even tells you at the top the format. So you're going to submit, you're submitting for me both a PowerPoint and an Excel spreadsheet. If you are using an Apple product, then please make sure that you convert to a PDF so I'll be able to open it. If you're using any other kind of Apple product, I won't be able to open it. And if you're using Google, I'm not navigating outside of Google because it needs to be able to go through our iLearn Safe Assign. So it has to be either a PowerPoint in Excel or PDF format. Your first slide is your title slide where you're listing your name, our course information, semester, that type of information. Your second slide, you're describing for me the students. So you tell me about Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy. You tell me about the students, gender, grade, race. If you know their 504 or IEP status, if you know that information, if you know whether or not there's behavior issues or behavior concerns. The next slide you're going to have for me is your bad or inappropriate graph, the gobbledygook, as I call it. The next slide would be the more appropriate graph, one that does paint a picture and clearly communicates the information. The following slide, you're going to explain to me why one graph is better than the other. So yes, like I said, both graphs are based on the exact same data, the exact same set of information, but you're going to tell me why one graph is a better choice to communicate that data than the other one. The next slide or slides, you'll notice I have parentheses and an S. That means that you can choose to have more slides. You need to have at least a slide for each of these items, but you can choose to have more than one slide if you need to. So I need you to the analysis of your data. So you're going to discuss your data that you've collected and tell me about your results. Don't just display the data because you're already uploading your Excel. I can see that. So don't just simply display the data. Discuss it. Make sure that your data and your discussion reflect accurate completion of the survey. In other words, that you have the correct number of responses for every category and for each individual that were participants in your survey. Don't use ambiguous terms like, well, most of the students liked this, or some of them like this. It needs to be quantified. So make sure that you're using specific numbers, percents, overall group preference, the variance between their preferences. As you're discussing your data. The rubric goes on from there to the next slide would be on interpretation. So now that you've told me what your data was, what does that data tell you? An explanation of the patterns that you're observing in the data. What does it tell you about the students that you surveyed? Were there similarities among the genders or by other demographic categories? And how could this data be used for individual students and or for the group as a whole? Your next slide is your reflection. I need you to tell me about what you learned, how it differed from what you may have expected. So, say, for example, if I surveyed a group of first graders, I may have assumed that they were going to be motivated by consumable rewards. If I surveyed a group of high school students, I may have assumed that they were all interested in themselves and they were going to be motivated by independent rewards, or because they define themselves by what their peers think, I might have thought in my mind peer approval. So, based on what I thought, did my results align with my first impression or with what I assumed I was going to get? And then also tell me about what you learned from this experience. The folder that I showed you at the beginning that said CEC standards. Let me go back here. So the folder here that says CEC standards. One of the learning objectives from the university is to make sure that we're not just looking at the standards for the course itself, but also looking at how they fit into the greater picture. So CEC stands for the Council of Exceptional Children. CEC, Council for Exceptional Children. And so we're looking at their standards to determine how what we're doing aligns with the standards that are out there in the real world, outside of the educational setting or outside of the university setting. So if you look on this link, will take you to the initial preparation standards, and or the other link will take you to specially set individualized general curriculum standards. So what you're going to do for me in that section is you are going to read through the standards and identify at least one, can be more, but at least one standard that aligns with this assignment. And it says, of course, here on the rubric that the standards can be found in our folder on iLearn content page. So must include the standard and explain how it aligns with this assignment. You are getting points just simply for administering the assignment, the survey to at least 10 students. So that's not a slide. That, of course, is documented through your Excel raw data, as well as when you're discussing your participants and when you're telling me about the analysis and interpretation of your data. You get points for simply uploading your Excel file along with your PowerPoint. And then also please make sure that we are looking at our writing expectations. Although this is not a formal paper, so we're not looking at ABA or APA format. However, please make sure that we've checked for spelling, that if you're using punctuation, because it can be just bulleted without punctuation. But if you do use punctuation, make sure that it's used correctly. Make sure that you've checked for grammar and that your information is concise and clearly communicated. Clearly communicated, not clear, clearly communicated. And the assignment is worth a total of 100 points. So CEC standards, again, this shows you where you can find it. I also navigated to it for you just a second ago on the video. So double check your work. Be sure that your spreadsheet file is in either Excel or PDF format. Otherwise, I won't be able to open it. And if I can't open it, I can't grade it. Be sure that your slide presentation is in either PowerPoint or PDF format, and that you upload both files. I can't speak, you guys. That you upload both files in the Reinforcer Survey Dropbox by the due date. So that's a picture of where you would find that Dropbox. Like I said on the beginning of our video, I did not have that active for you, but it will be. So that will be there as soon as I change the date and make sure that it's set for this semester for you guys. So that is a brief video, hopefully it's brief, on how to complete our Reinforcer Survey project. I am hoping that that answered any questions that you might have. If there are questions that I did not answer, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can reach me either by email or text or by phone. Otherwise, I'm going to say take care, God bless, and I'll see you guys in class. Bye.